You have been told your whole life that the majority rules. Plato spent his entire career explaining why that idea is one of the most dangerous things ever invented. About 2,400 years ago in Athens, the city considered the birthplace of democracy was running an experiment. Citizens voted on everything. Laws, wars, leaders, punishments. The assumption behind all of it was straightforward. More voices mean better decisions. The crowd is wiser than any single person. Numbers equal truth. Then they voted to execute Socrates, not a tyrant, not a criminal. The most honest man in the city, killed by a popular vote of 500 ordinary citizens who simply found him irritating. And Plato, who was there, who watched it happen, spent the rest of his life asking one question. What exactly does it mean when the majority gets it catastrophically wrong? Think about how much of your daily life is organized around consensus. You check reviews before you buy something. You look at likes before you decide if a post is worth reading. You gauge the temperature of a room before you share your real opinion. You wait to see what other people think before you commit to what you think. And at some point, without quite deciding to, you started treating popularity as a proxy for truth. Something is right because a lot of people think so. Something is worth your time because a lot of people gave it their time. The crowd has become your compass. Plato watched Athens do the exact same thing, and he wanted to understand why it kept failing. He grew up in a city that loved argument. Athenian democracy was loud and participatory in a way that almost nothing today compares to. Citizens assembled regularly to debate policy and vote directly. There was no representative government, no elected officials filtering the process. Just people standing up, speaking their minds, persuading each other, and then counting hands. On paper, it sounds ideal. What Plato observed was something different. He watched how those debates actually worked. He noticed that the best speaker usually won, not the person with the best argument. He watched citizens get swept up in whoever was most confident, most entertaining, most willing to tell them what they wanted to hear. He saw that the crowd didn't evaluate ideas, it responded to performances. And the person who understood the crowd's fears and desires well enough to mirror them back could get almost any vote passed. He called the people who specialized in this skill sophists, professional persuaders, men who taught others how to make weak arguments sound strong, and strong arguments sound weak, for money, without any concern for whether what they were arguing was actually true. They were enormously popular. Parents paid well to have their sons trained by them because winning arguments was how you got ahead in Athens. Socrates refused to charge for his conversations. He also refused to tell people what they wanted to hear. He would corner some prominent Athenian who claimed to know what justice was, or wisdom, or courage, and within 20 minutes of questions have them completely unable to explain the thing they'd been confidently talking about their entire careers. People found this humiliating. The crowd did not love Socrates. The sophists did fine. This is the thing Plato is actually pointing at, and it's more precise than just saying crowds are dumb. He's saying that public opinion is not a measure of truth. It's a measure of what resonates emotionally with a large number of people at a specific moment. And those two things, truth and resonance, can overlap, but they don't have to. In fact, whenever they conflict, resonance wins. The crowd is not evaluating logic. It's responding to feeling. And here's where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. Because Plato isn't just describing ancient Athens. He's describing the exact mechanism behind every social media platform ever built. Algorithms don't surface what's most accurate. They surface what generates the most reaction. Outrage, desire, fear, tribal belonging, all of it moves faster and further than careful reasoning. The sophists of Athens would have been absolutely at home with a smartphone. You've experienced this directly. Think about a time when you held a position that was right, or at least well-reasoned, but the group around you disagreed. Not because they had better arguments, just because they were louder, or more numerous, or the social cost of disagreeing was too high. Did you hold your position? Or did you quietly revise it toward whatever the room preferred? Most people revise. Not dishonestly, not cynically, but naturally. We are social animals, and we read consensus as information. When everyone around you thinks something, the most natural conclusion is that you must be missing something they all see. So you update, you soften, you come around. Plato's argument is that this reflex, while understandable, is also how you outsource your mind without realizing it. He wrote about this through a thought experiment that stayed in circulation for 2,500 years. Imagine people chained inside a cave since birth, facing a wall. Behind them is a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners, objects are carried back and forth, casting shadows on the wall. The prisoners, having seen nothing else their entire lives, believe the shadows are reality. They name them, study them, develop expertise in predicting their movements. To them, the shadows are not symbols. They are the world. Then one prisoner gets free. He turns around, sees the fire, the objects, eventually makes it out of the cave into actual sunlight. His entire understanding of reality restructures itself. It's disorienting and painful at first. And when he goes back to tell the others what he found, they don't believe him. They think he's broken. The shadows they can see are more convincing to them than the world he's describing. That prisoner is anyone who has tried to tell a large group of people something true that contradicted what they already believed. You know how that goes. The application here is not about becoming arrogant. Plato wasn't saying ignore everyone else and trust only yourself. Socrates himself talked constantly, asked constantly, engaged everyone he could find. The point is about where you source your conclusions. Are you thinking, and then checking whether others agree, or are you checking what others think, and then adopting that as your position? Those two processes look almost identical from the outside. Inside, they produce completely different people. Here's something practical. The next time you're about to make a decision, a real one, a career move, a belief you're reconsidering, a relationship call, try something Plato would recognize. Before you look at what other people think, write down what you actually think. One paragraph. Your honest assessment, before you've been influenced by the room. Then go look at the consensus. Then decide. What you'll find is that doing it in that order changes the quality of your conclusion. You're no longer absorbing the group's opinion and dressing it up as your own reasoning. You're in actual dialogue with other perspectives, from a place of having first done your own thinking. The crowd becomes information instead of instruction. Socrates died because 500 people who hadn't done that voted on his fate. They hadn't thought carefully. They had been persuaded. The difference cost him his life, and cost Athens one of the few people genuinely trying to make it think clearly. Plato never forgot that. He spent 40 more years writing about it. The majority voted. The majority was wrong. Those two facts can coexist. They always could. Drop a comment if this changed how you're rethinking about a decision you're currently in the middle of.